Hey gang, Jose with Sailing Reverie, bringing you another episode. I'm starting the process of setting up the shelving for our refrigerator, and unfortunately it's kind of conflicting with I'm gonna have to move our boat. Our marina is in the process of redoing the seawall and the boat ramp, so by next week I have to pack it up and move to a different spot. One of our neighbors thankfully let me borrow his dock, so I'm going to move Reverie over to his dock and keep working on it. So I'm trying to get some things I need to get done today for the move, and continue to work on the galley. So what I'm going to try to do is do the framing, and since boats are always moving, it's kind of hard to get a level. So I found this infrared little cube that will put a line even throughout the bulkhead, and I can put it on a little tripod, and I'll show you that when I'm doing it, so I can transpose a level across multiple dimensions. So this is going to help me make sure I have the right height across the bottom of the galley where I have to mount the shelf. And I have a carpenter that's working on building me a drawer that I can put in bottom sliding, that's going to be under the refrigerator, and that's going to be for our pots and pans. But today what I'm trying to do is get the level marked and put the supports, so then I can measure the length of the shelf I need to cut to put in there, so then I can bring the fridge and set that on top of it. So that should be a lot of fun. I can hardly wait to get that fridge on Reverie. So let me show you. Okay, so you can see I have the tripod attached to my electronic level, and I picked up this line, which is the principal line that I'm using as my base. It gives me enough height for the refrigerator to sit on a shelf at that height and carry that. You can see the line going around the bulkhead and around this side of the hull. So I'm going to take a marker and a straight edge and mark that line. So I'm going to have a kind of level line throughout that I can then attach my supports to the bulkhead to the side here, and then I can measure to cut my piece of wood that's going to become the shelf. Under here I'm building a box drawer that can pull out. It's going to be about the width of this section here, and that's going to give us the ability to get some pots and pans under that and not waste that space. Alright gang, so I'm cutting the last big piece that we need for the galley. So I went and took measurements, and I kept the piece of board, even though it's all falling apart, but at least it gives me the curve of the hull, and that makes it a little easier to get this big piece cut out. So just to show you, this is kind of what we're looking at as far as what we're doing now. Okay, so I'm using the fact that the plywood has a nice straight edge, and I have the piece that was left from the bulkhead, and I went ahead and measured and kind of drew the line, so now I have the curve of the hull. I'm going to finish drawing the line here. Maybe some chunks missing, but have enough of a straight edge to get my top line marked up. And on the bottom, to make sure I have the right dimensions, I measured top to bottom how much distance. I got to make sure that it matches on the other side of the curve. And then I have a lip that drops down, so I mark that on that side of the board, and I'm going to stretch that line over, make sure I have this width on this end of the plywood, and we should have our piece ready. Initially I was thinking of cutting the hole for the drawer, but decided that I'm gonna wait, and I'll do that post installation. I think it's gonna be easier to make sure I have the right alignment and dimensions. So one thing you have to be careful with, as I took the galley out, I remove a lot of weight from that side of the boat. All of these pieces, the shelving, the stove, the box for the stove, the ice box, the wood on the bulkhead, the wood on the side. All of that took weight out of the boat, which on a light boat like mine, basically it lifts it a little bit. So when I'm measuring to put things back together, I can't go really with a level. I have to go by the dimensions of the wood that came out to make sure that once I put the weight back on, everything will end up back to level. So it's a little bit of a puzzle you have to work with. But fingers crossed, everything should work out fine. So let me get cutting here and see how we end up. All right, fingers crossed. Got everything marked. Moment of truth. We finished cutting the board we need for the enclosure to kind of close the cabinet so we can finish setting up our fridge in. And actually came out really good. I'm not a woodworking guy, and I'm actually pretty happy with the outcome. So not bad for a non-carpenter. So if you recall, I had the piece, or half a piece, that went down here, you know, basically was cut off here, but it had my curve for the hull. So I took that and measured the length on the top and the length on the bottom to make sure that I had the right length to come over and have a nice butt joint here. This is kind of how this is all put together. So, and make sure that I had the height correctly. So then our countertop, I'll be able to put boards across or, do whatever kind of rigging I need. But this is where the old countertop used to be set up. And really all it was a piece of plywood, 1/2-inch plywood that sat here, and then they put a veneer on top and kind of look like this. So this is not a board on top. This is a board recessed into the cabinet that they basically, you can see the joint there, just put a veneer on top, and they basically called it a countertop. Yeah, nice, ingenious, affordable way of doing that. So the board actually came out really good. It sits on the ledge down below, and that's gonna get screwed in there. And I have a nice tight fit against the liner. And basically I'm gonna put a couple of pieces of wood down on the bottom on that side and on the inside to secure the board so it's not moving back and forth. And then in here, we're gonna screw the board through in a couple of spots, and that's going to join with this 1x that's basically providing the backing surface for it. But once the fridge is set up, it's going to come up, my measurements are correct, to about here, and then the countertop will be sitting right on top, and the countertop will be something that we can lift up to get to the fridge and lower it down. And then on this side, this board is going to be the base of the cabinet. I have to go cut it. This is kind of the original board, and it's damaged on the edge there. But I need to, because of how this galley is designed, I have to cut this end here. This board was actually up here before. So I'm gonna cut this edge here and recess it at the same height of the cabinet, the current cabinet, and that'll give us a straight countertop, not countertop, but a straight area where we're going to mount our shelving. So to these we'll put a fascia board throughout with the drawers for our cabinets, and our cabinets will go all the way to the hull. So we gain quite a bit of storage space. Okay, so I'm using the electronic level with the light to put my mark where I need to put the support. You see it back there, the black line. It's flickering because it's moving gently because of the motion of the boat. So once it stops, that red dot on top turns green. That means I have the level, but the minute I move, it's gonna start flickering again. But basically it holds it in place so I can get my line in and now I know where I need to screw in my support. Alright, so I cleaned up the area and I mounted a support for the winch box. So I tested it, it works perfect. I extended underneath so it goes all the way to the edge, and that provides support. It's anchored against the bulkhead, so that should stay fine. And I reran the hot and cold water hoses back. That's where the pump is going. But now I can go ahead and finish the enclosure, mounting the enclosure here. Okay, so I'm doing a little testing with a level, making sure that everything is pretty much at the same height. And it's kind of hard for you to see because I got the light in there, but the level's indicating that everything is pretty much level from across here, across there, and across here. So it should be pretty consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and secure my forward panel. Okay, so now our side panel is fastened. We have 24-inch width between here and here, which is the standard cabinet width for where the stove, the cooktop is going to go. And now I'm going to go cut the board that's going to sit here to hold the refrigerator and an additional support, and I'm going to cut this shelf that's going to go across here to be the base of the cabinets. Okay, so I got my board ready, but because the cooler is pretty heavy, I wanted to add some support somewhere around the middle. So I made that board you see here that is going flush. I notched it so it's flush with the supports on both sides, and I'm going to use these strips to basically sandwich it side to side so it doesn't move. So if you look down, this is going to be a sandwich like this, but it's going to be underneath, so you're not going to see it, but it's still going to be easy enough to remove if I have an emergency. So if I have to take this out or disassemble the galley, everything is kind of modular. Now you see that by putting this here, I created this big box, and this is actually going to be a drawer later. I'm not going to do that right now. I want to get rolling. So I'm going to make a drawer that's self-contained, and I'm going to cut a hole on the panel, from the outside in, and then I can slide it in, and it'll have its own, it'll be all self-contained, so all I have to do is slide it and attach it, and we should be good to go. So the panel where the fridge is going to sit, and then it slides like this. There you go. And again, I'm going to fasten it. I'm going to put a couple of screws on each side, and that's to keep this stable when we're sailing and heeling. Once I put the fridge in here, I'm going to have to secure that to the board itself. So if we turtle for whatever reason, it's not going to go flying out. It should stay in place securely. Okay, so that is fastened, secure from both sides. Okay, so our cabinet is all done. Came out pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and slide the refrigerator in and see how that comes out. Hopefully it'll fit. I have to kind of navigate it through here to slide it into there, because I have the cockpit locker, or actually the cockpit seat is kind of in the way, so it doesn't give me a lot of room between here and there to slide the fridge in. So I'm gonna have to kind of work it around and in. I'm gonna need both hands for that, so let me give that a try. All right, so mission accomplished. we got our refrigerator in, and I had planned the Bluetti Powerpack is right behind it. So the way I'm hooking this up, this is a dual zone cooler. So this is you can use them both as a freezer, you can use them both as refrigerator. For now I'm going to use one side for freezer, one side for fridge. And you know, over here it shows you the temperature, but I have the app, and in the app you can see that I'm basically you know, I just started it again, the fridge, so it's going to take a couple hours to get the temperature down. All right, so this is the screen of the app. You're going to see that it indicates, it shows you both zones. It shows you the current temperature and the target temperature that you have it set up for both sides. So this is a freezer and this is a refrigerator, so it's still kind of cool, working its way to get down to the proper temperature. Over here you have the kind of the second screen, which tells you the power consumption for the refrigerator side, the way I have it set up, and it gives you hours, days, or weeks. And on the next screen you're going to see the other side, which would be the freezer, and it shows you again temperature and power consumption by hour, day, or week. So what I'm doing is I'm hooking up, this can be 120 AC or 12 volt DC. So to make the most efficient use, I'm hooking up 12 volt to the Bluetti, and that Bluetti unit can run this refrigerator for about 4 days without charging. But right now, since I'm in short power, I'm gonna hook it up. It's hooked up. And so it's going to be charging at the same time that it's consuming power. This unit also has a MPPT charge controller, and it has a 1000 watt inverter built in. I'm not going to use inverter on this, but the MPPT, I have the connection so I can hook up the solar panels if I'm going to be out and away from shore power for more than 4 days. I can hook up the solar panel, and the MPPT on the Bluetti will charge the unit back up. So we can be very self-sufficient, and the way I have the panels set up, I can split the panels, so I can have one both going to the batteries, or one going to the batteries and one going to the Bluetti. So that's it. I'm very happy and excited. I finally get to have cold drinks on the boat and some food. And over here I cut the baseboard that's going to be the base for the cabinet. I'm gonna trim it. I always cut things a little too long. I'd rather trim than not have enough. So but I have the curve on the backside pretty well laid out, so tomorrow I'll come back and I'll trim that and I'll mount it. So it's going to be supported there, it's supported on the board here, it's going to be supported on the bulkhead. Alright guys, so it's a little messy over here, don't look at that, that's all the tools I've been dealing with today. But now the galley is starting to look like a galley again. So we have now our fridge and cooler. There'll be a countertop on top of that that'll lift up so you can access the freezer and the fridge. I still have to secure that so it doesn't slide when we're sailing. So right now it's sitting there. I have to put some brakes down on the base. But we have our backboard now, which is the base, the new base for the cabinet. So everything, I'm still debating whether, I'm gonna make all of that one level cabinetry, meaning no shelves, or if I'll add one more shelf and kind of have two shelves. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I appreciate the feedback. Just trying to figure out the best way to maximize the space. So if I leave it as one shelf, or I probably still do two, it's going to go all the way to the hole. I got to tuck all those wires up, but it'll be a fascia basically running the length here, and they'll have cabinet doors to open up and store away food. So I still have to trim it. I got the curve right on the hall, but I cut it a little long, usually because I'm dealing with so many curves here in the galley. I always cut maybe 1/8 of an inch longer. I'd rather have to trim than not have enough. And I like a snug fit, so that's nice and tight. I just have to trim it so it'll slide all the way to the corner. So, you know, that's looking good. As I mentioned, underneath the cooler is going to be another shelf, another drawer that's going to be down here. Now I left it closed for now. You know, I'll open it up, but I'm probably going to get a shelf that's all self-contained with a box and cut the hole and then just slide the whole thing in and secure it. I may have to pull the fridge out to do that, but you know, I'm going to try to avoid that at all costs. So that's it for the galley refit for now. I'm gonna cut it here. I'm gonna get a countertop, probably gonna be a butcher block of some sort for here, and that should look pretty neat once we have it all done. I got a little more work done. So to wrap up the video, I want to show you what we did for a temporary countertop. Now the bar you see there is the bar you have in every boat, strap on if you're cooking well on your way. It's not attached, it's only there to kind of present where I may reattach it. Don't know yet if I will or not, but I want to make sure that it fitted. We have secure our the base for the cabinets, so that's attached over in the bulkhead over there, here in the center and here on the end. And then I cut this temporary countertop, and I actually had a mismeasurement. Even though I measure everything 2 or 3 times before I cut, I measured this about 1 inch too short. But that's okay, because all this is going to get a different finish and different countertop on top. So for now, you know, I hate having the hole in there, but it will do. So what I ended up doing to set the countertop is I put hinges on the back side, and the countertop sits on top of the board, so it creates a nice kind of nice finish. And for now, I'm gonna use both hands here for a second. So I'm going to use a piston lift that I'll get later, and I'll attach it here and attach it there, so this will be hydraulic, and I'll also put another one on the other side. But basically, you know, I'll be able to lift the countertop to get to the refrigerator, and you know, you'll be able to get to the freezer or to the fridge. And of course I got my goodies in there already, and I still have this section down here for additional storage for things like water, bottled water, you know, canned foods or things like that. I can put them on that side, still have plenty of space. So that's our setup. Right now I'm kind of doing the good old-fashioned string, and the other thing I still have to do is figure out a way to latch this down, so when we're making way, this is not going to be bouncing around and it won't come open. So the galley now looks pretty good. So we have nice counter space. We're going to have drawers, kind of shelving and drawers on the, not drawers, but cabinetry on the back for storage. We have our sink, which I have to clean. I replaced our faucet. And in here, we're gonna have our cooktop. It's gonna be a 2-burner. For 2 people, you really don't need any more than that. A convection type oven underneath. And where the tools are, that's going to be a drawer for pots and pans. So, you know, went from the small galley with a lot of inefficient space to still a small galley, but making better use of the space available. So in the design of the this countertop, we have to make an allowance for the lifting of the top, because when it lifts, it's going to go against the box that's enclosing our centerboard winch. So I had to cut a notch here, but this also works because it provides a means of venting. Both of those units have compressors or fans for cooling, and they're going to blow all that hot air. That hot air has to have a place to go. So I'm putting a fan underneath to exhaust heat out into the back aft locker. But it also, I'm going to put a grid here or something that's going to be flexible. So when you open this up, you see how it comes against the board. So I need something that's going to be flexible, but still it's going to allow air to flow through. So we have some good air circulation underneath here. All right, gang, thank you so much for watching. We're going to cut this episode here. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comment section. I'll be happy to share any information I have on everything we've been doing. If you like our videos, please click on the button below and subscribe to our channel. We're sharing all of the refit on Reverie as we go, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we hope that this is helping you with your projects at some point. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode.